Arvind Sharma, who's been the professor at McGill University. Our speakers are the following: Professor Arindam Chakraborty, who's professor of philosophy, Stony Brook University, New York. Professor Glenn Hayes, who's professor emeritus of religion at Bloomsfield College, and also the chair society at Tantric Studies. Professor David Lawrence, who's been professor of North Dakota, USA at the Department of Philosophy and Religion Studies, and Professor Ranganath, who's the director of RV Institute of Sanskrit Studies, Bangalore. I now request our chair to kindly allow the speakers to read their papers. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us commence our session without further ado. Some rules of the game. Every speaker would speak, we hope, for about 20 minutes. Yes. Yeah, 20 to 25. And we will have questions at the end of the session. Yeah? Good. So I will now invite Professor Glenn Hayes. Oh, by the way, yes. And before the speakers turn to their paper, I would request them to say a few words about their own background, about what they would like the audience to know about them, rather than my trying to say something. Thank you.
That doesn't count.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. In terms of my background, when I started college, I was an engineer. I was a civil engineer. And when I was at university, I started to study yoga and Hinduism. I began studying Bengali in college, and I ended up going to the University of Chicago, where I studied Sanskrit with Hans van Buitenen, Bengali with Edward Dimmock, and I just became very interested in subtle body ideas, Deha Tattva. And over the years, I've translated many Bengali texts, mostly Sahajiya, Vaishnava Sahajiya texts, which are very, very interesting. So that's kind of my background. And again, I'm so happy to be here and to see all of you at this wonderful conference. Now, let me start off. I'd like to thank Drs. Shastri and Singh, as well as Sanchi University, for inviting me to this wonderful conference, and for the opportunity to share with you some interesting aspects of Shaktatantra that may be found in the Ananda Bhairava of Premadasa. This Vaishnava Sahajiya text of approximately 300 couplets, mostly in Middle Bengali with one Sanskrit shloka, was edited by Manindra Mohan Basu in his anthology Sahajiya Sahitya, published by the University of Calcutta in 1932, and is based on manuscript number 3926 in their archives, dated 1832. However, the text was probably composed about 1725. Now, Greater Bengal has, of course, been a region of diverse religious traditions and remains a vibrant abode of Shaktism in general. As many scholars have shown, Greater Bengal has been a center of not only Buddhist and Hindu Tantra, but also of traditions of Durga, Kali, Devi, and other forms of the goddess. And for our purposes here today, it has also been the center of Bengali or Gaudiya Vaishnavism, especially the dynamic flowering of the Chaitanya movement based on the renowned Krishna Chaitanya, and as many followers such as the Goshaman theologians of Vrindavana, including Rupa Goshaman, and hagiographers such as Krishna Dasa Kaviraja, whose Chaitanya Charitamrita has been so influential. As Dimmock is shown in The Place of the Hidden Moon, the Vaishnava Sahajiyas were, and still are, according to Sukanya Sarba Adhikari, a transgressive tantric movement that appeared sometime after the time of Chaitanya, probably after the composition of the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the latter half of the 16th century. While this is not the place to discuss the intricacies of Gaudiya Vaishnava Raganuga Bhakti Sadhana and other details of their elegant and fascinating traditions, we need to observe that Sahajiyas took a fundamental Gaudiya belief in the dual divinity of Chaitanya as the avatara of Krishna and Radha in one body as a sort of jumping off point in the development of their own tantric cosmology, ontology, epistemology, and soteriology. Much to the outrage of Orthodox Gaudiya Vaishnavas since the 16th century, and to this day, Sahaji has appropriated and modified the belief that Chaitanya himself manifested a tantric ontology as the indwelling of both male and female principles. Yet the Sahajiyas went even further when they argued, as the learned guru Akanchana Dasa did in his voluminous Vivarta Vilasa, basically a Sahajiya commentary on the Charitamrita, that Chaitanya, some Goswamins, and Krishna Dasa had all secretly been Sahajiyas. Right? Without getting into details here, this meant that, like all Sahajiyas, they were in violation of mainstream Hindu purity and caste norms, as well as involved in transgressive rituals. Again, here we must be sensitive to the rejection of this claim by Orthodox Vaishnavas, as it is indeed a very debatable topic. But it is important for us to note because some Sahajiyas, such as Premadasa, author of the Anandabharava, use similar strategies to appropriate ideas from Shaktatantra. In short, take a core concept, figure, or being, acknowledge it, and then somehow fit it into your cosmology. This is, of course, an enduring strategy in the history of religions worldwide. Although the specific details of interactions between Sahajiyas and Gaudiya Vaishnavas and between Sahajiyas and Shaktas in 17th and 18th century Bengal remain to be studied further, it seems that Sahajiyas adopted these strategies of appropriation for several reasons. In other words, they took ideas from Gaudiya Vaishnavism just as they would take ideas from Shakta traditions. First, there are deep cosmological and conceptual resonances between a tantric worldview and those of Gaudiyas and Shaktas. Secondly, they made creative use of the sophistication of Gaudiya and Shakta systems, which had been developed by many brilliant people over many years, and thus provided Sahajiyas with elegant ways of expressing their own yogic and devotional experiences. Finally, the great popularity of both Shaktism and Gaudiya Vaishnavism in Bengal was an immediate reason for Sahajiya gurus such as Mukundadeva, Akanchana Dasa, and Premadasa to make attempts to attract followers of Shaktism and Gaudiya communities and to initiate them into Sahaja Dharma. In short, these two audiences had to be attractive to Sahajiya leaders, eager to expand their own sampradayas, and in the Anandabharava we see some results of these efforts. Let me just get some water here. Go. Okay. All right. Reflecting the basic Sahajiya cosmology, the text opens up with a standard but very important invocation of Sri Sri Radhakrishna. In other words, it starts out very Vaishnava, very, Krishna-centered. But it then immediately presents 7 words which suggest the Shakta tilt of the text. Kemankari, Kor, Gandharika, Parash, Icha, Bama, Monadika. Now, these words are, of course, being used as types of mantras by Premadasa. Kemankari seems to be an honorific, auspicious one, typically addressed to the goddess Durga, while Kor is a more obscure, possibly Bengali colloquial term for lame one or addicted one. Gandharika seems to be fragrant woman and suggests the cultivated female consort of Sahajiya rituals, while Parash, gentle touch, may be referred to the goddess or the ritual partner. Icha, intention or desired one, seems to express the mental focus required in sadhana. Also obscure are Bama, beautiful woman, and Monadika, silent one. This illustrates, these kind of odd, obscure terms here, illustrate a major obstacle in the academic study of the Sahajiya traditions, and something I've had to deal with for quite a while. And that is the fact that there seems to be no written commentary that explain these terms, as in other tantric traditions. Dimmock, as well as the noted historian of Bengali Vaishnavism, Ramakanta Chakravarti, felt that the Sahajiya communities were primarily oral traditions, passed down from guru to chela, and that many, if not all of these lineages, faded away in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Thus, we lack written commentaries that explain key terms and concepts, as is so common in all the other tantric traditions that you all know about. In her recent fieldwork in Bengal with modern-day Sahajiyas and Nadia, Sukanya Sarvadikari found Sahajiyas who were vaguely aware of the medieval lineages of Mukundadeva and Akanchana Dasa, but they demonstrated little familiarity with the details of the earlier schools, and certainly not with the elaborate subtle body systems developed by the Mukunda Sampradaya. In other words, we talked earlier about the chakra systems and such. For the Sahajiyas, it's not chakras. There's 4 lotus ponds, there's 4 tanks, Saravara. So it's very, very different. Now, following these 7 terms, there's a corrupted Sanskrit shloka, the only one in the text, which does contain a few words that may pertain to sadhanas that will be outlined in the subsequent Bengali text. Such corrupted Sanskrit is typical of many Sahajiya texts, although others, like the Vivarta Vilasa of Akanchana Dasa, often cite fairly accurately a range of Sanskrit texts such as the Bhagavata Purana and other tantras. Now, the narrative portion of this text begins with two characters discussing the meaning of the Sanskrit shloka. And again, it's somewhat obscure, but you can see the sense. The two characters are Padmapati and Kanta. Padmapati says, I ask out of humble devotion. I would like to hear the meaning of the shloka. Kanta says, you must listen carefully for the meaning of the shloka. It is not to be understood externally, as it is an interior mental process. Because of your earnest request, I will speak about this shloka, as you have requested just a little bit of knowledge. Yet how shall I tell you about your own self-knowledge if you worship under the spell of Maya? You will not be able to understand this. Padmapati says, you state that a person may be enchanted by Maya, yet such a person with the best of intentions nonetheless makes decisions and takes actions. You might consider yourself spiritual, but the bhakta is as worldly. Behold that any person who makes decisions is still enchanted by Maya. Now, after observing that bhakti provides an easier path than that of jnana, Kanta then proceeds to instruct Padmapati about the meaning of the shloka. Says, I bow down to the teaching from a great distance. Thus I will reveal the meaning of the shloka. Listen with a single mind. And now here, and Lorelei was talking about some of this earlier, this idea of the body and the senses. You see kind of what they're doing here. They say, rupa, form, rasa, taste, shabda, sound, sparsha, touch, lila, play, and rasa guna, the taste qualities. Together with the hero, the nayaka, and the heroine, the nayika, make up the 8 beings, the Ashtadhyana. Right, again, that kind of tantric number of 8. She whose name is Kemankari is who what I call the Rupa. She who is called Kaur is the true form of the Nayika. She who is called Gandharika, fragrant woman, she becomes fragrance. The one with the name Rasa, this is called touch, Parash, and is difficult to understand, indeed. She who is the desired one, she becomes sound. In the sound of the word Bama are what are called other tastes, Onorasa. The activator of Lila, the Lila Karta, is she who is called the silent one, Manadika. Thus I have told you the meaning of the 24 syllables. There are also external names for 18 of the syllables. Along with the Nayika, the entire assembly worships Sri Krishna. Now again, you can see right there, this is a very elaborate, very complicated kind of a sensory cosmos, the whole idea of kind of layered levels within the body and the cognitive system. And this passage, again, shows how complex and obscure the Sahajiya system is, but for our purposes today, it suffices to point out that the sadhana is one based upon mastery of the senses by the ritual couple, the Nayaka and the Nayika, and connecting these senses to interior states connected to various manifestations of the goddess. Still, it is important that the assembly is told to worship Sri Krishna. This is a Vaishnava text. Reciting specific terms leads to realization of certain inner states, which of course is typical of many tantric sadhanas. Again, that whole use of mantras. Now, the text then shifts into a very distinctive creation story regarding Adya Shakti, which you may have not heard. It is fairly interesting. Shakti was born from the sweat, Gama, of infinite Brahma, Anadi Brahma. His mind was attracted to her divine image. One desire became 2 desires, and they joined together. And thus Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva were born. Brahma from the mouth, Vishnu from the chest, and Shiva from the forehead. As time went on, the 3 blood brothers became very powerful. Because of his compassion for the 3, infinite Brahma provided them with mantras. He then ordered the 3 to go to perform tapasya, austerities. Following his commands, they traveled to the banks of the crooked river, the Banka Nadi. And again, Banka Nadi is actually in the Sahajiya system. It's like Shushumna Nadi in the chakra system. So this is, interesting. Using the seed syllables of the mantra, the 3 performed austerities. Understanding their minds, the infinite Brahma went away, but he used powers obtained from his knowledge of yoga. He disguised himself as a dead corpse, and he floated down the river. Shouting, away, away, Brahma made only a token offering of water. Enraged, the infinite Brahma cursed him and said, this great violation means you will not have much puja in this world. In that same disguise, he floated near Vishnu. In great haste, Vishnu offered up 3 scoops of water. Smiling, Anadi Brahma granted him a boon. He says, without you, there will be no actions in samsara. Still disguised as that corpse, he floated by Shiva. Breaking his meditation, Shiva stared at the corpse. Once again, Shiva closed his eyes. Astonished, he resumed his meditation, but due to his yogic powers, Shiva realized who the corpse really was. Drawing it up into his lap, he began to dance about. Because he was now propitiated, infinite Brahma was compassionate and merciful towards Shiva. Because of you, my desires are completely fulfilled. My mind is melted by the sight of your devotion. Accept this gift. I give Adya Shakti to you. Shiva says, I fear, Lord, that I may transgress your command. You've given such a powerful gift. Won't I commit some mistake? Yet infinite Brahma says, who am I? Who is Adya Shakti? Who are you? So Shiva, intuiting their unity, agreed. Approaching the feet of Shakti, he paid his respects. Smiling, Mahamaya says sweetly, you must keep my command for all time. Whatever desires you may have will become mine as well. If you understand, it is near. Otherwise, it is far away. Because of that, you must worship me. If you know me, you will gain darshan. Understanding as the mind evolves what proper worship is, Shiva says, I have taken refuge within the Kama Bija mantra. I am the true inner form of the Bija. Behold my qualities. Hara says, please give me darshan of your entire form. Shakti caused her form to glow with all of the gunas. According to Shiva's request, he saw everything. One by one, Shiva gained darshan of everything. Shakti made all of the gunas flourish in her body. Drawing inward, Shiva lost consciousness. Overwhelmed, the yogi sprawls upon the ground, the bhumi. Raising him up, Mahamaya seats him on her knee. Somehow Hara managed to regain consciousness. Stabilizing himself, Shiva said, what happened to me in there? Que pasa? Yet even while saying this, he became unsteady once again. The Rashika is one who's able to know this and to compose themselves. Shakti says, please calm yourself down and listen. I will describe one by one your own qualities. Please listen. And then there's lots of material coming up. Now, since we only have a few minutes today, a longer treatment of this and other passages must wait for a longer paper. But here we see Premadasa appropriating aspects of Shaktism in quite novel ways. To begin with, the curious creation story appears in similar forms in Bengali Dharma Mangala and other regional Bengali literatures. The creation metaphor of sweat is an ancient one on planet Earth, but it also connects Shakti to the classical triad of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It also explains how Shiva used his superior yogic powers to pass the test of Anadi Brahma, embrace the apparent corpse, and receive Adya Shakti as his boon. Also of note is the Bankanadi, which in addition to being the location of their tapasya, is also for Sahajiyas the central channel in the subtle body, comparable to the Shushumna Nadi. The passage clearly presents Shakti as a supreme being whom Shiva is to worship, and perhaps in this way we can discern Premadasa's strategy to appeal to both Shaivas and Shaktas and convince them to become Sahajiyas. Now, after this passage, Shakti reveals a very complex subtle body system, Deha-tattva, which seems quite distinct to this text. I haven't seen versions of this like this in other texts. There are the finger moon, the Nakachandra, the face moon, the Mukhachandra, the skull moon, Kapalachandra, and a mounded place, Gandhashtal, of two moons, the essence of crested moons, Ardhachandra. As the moon arises, it exudes immortal nectar, Sudamrita. Unable to drink it, the Chakora bird dies of thirst. So there you have like that Nath imagery of the ambrosia and the Vaishnava imagery of the Chakora bird. Interesting blend. There are the foot lotus, the Padapadma, the navel lotus, the Nabhipadma, the thigh lotus, the Urupadma, the face lotus, the Mukhapadma, the eye lotus, the Antipadma, and 4 more lotuses. So again, we're seeing very interesting variation in subtle body systems here, especially in Bengal. Right? And it continues, it says, as the lotuses bloom, the sweet scent of honey wafts. Bumblebees flutter about as they come near. If the bees are unable to drink the nectar, they become distressed. And there are so many more aspects to consider. Listen now, I will tell you a few more. In the area of the chest, there are 2 hills, Yiri, and on top of these are sandalwood trees, Chandanaragach. Seeking to be cooled, the snake moves toward them. Without their cooling touch, its body burns in the heat. There are so many things like this in the external body. I'm afraid to speak about these things as it may cause you to lose consciousness. So again, very interesting system. Now, following this section on Deha Tattva, the Anandabhairava then states that Shiva created a bone mala out of 108 bones taken from the body of Shakti. Brahma and Vishnu are astounded by this and resolve to worship Shakti themselves. After she reveals the Sahajiya realm of Gupta Chandrapur, the place of the hidden moon, Shakti then manifests herself as the goddess Nila Chandra Rekha. And I've asked a number of people if they've heard of Nila Chandra Rekha, and if you have, please let me know. But here she says, Nila Chandra Rekha says, everything comes from me, my body, my existence, my deepest realization. She then connects herself to all of the sensory functions and states. I, Nila Chandra Rekha, am even more conscious than this. From me, all people have received their consciousness. There is much, much more to this text, and subsequent sections combine Sahajiya cosmology and sadhana with Shakta and Shaiva elements. But the underlying Sahajiya argument is that the Sahaja Manusha is really the highest cosmic being, and that the transgressive sadhanas and female consorts are the best way to realize Sahaja. The title of the text itself refers to the parable of a court minister named Bhairava, who while performing Kali Puja one day is visited by Kali and told to travel with a group consisting of one Brahmin, two Vaishnavas, one unlearned man, and a fool to a distant Sahaja realm where they learn from a group of women known as the 8 Nayikas. Various mantras such as the Kama Gayatri and the Kali Shankari mantra and their meanings are discussed, and Bhairava eventually receives the bliss, the Ananda. So in the final folia, just about done here, in the final folia, Premadasa further attempts to legitimate Sahajiya ritual practices by claiming that a range of notable figures in the past had all performed such transgressive actions, including Bharata Muni, the Rasa Shastra, right? Vidyapati, Chandidas, Jayadeva, Chaitanya, and others, all right? The Bhanita, the conclusion of the text, gave me the title for this paper. He says, I place my hope in the heart and before the auspicious feet of the blessed Guru. Premadasa recites this Anandabhairava. It is not intended for renouncers, but for Rashikas. Not for people, not for Vairagis, but for Rashikas. Through understanding this, Shakti and Prema will be obtained. Thus is completed the Anandabhairava. Now, conclusion, one paragraph, and I'm out. As the Anandabhairava is almost 600 lines long and filled with many interesting details, it is clearly impossible to say much more in a 20-odd minute presentation. But I hope that I've shown you, however briefly, how an 18th century Vaishnava Sahajiya author may have appropriated, stolen, borrowed, adapted some concepts, narratives, and symbolism from contemporary Shakta traditions. As some of my colleagues know, in recent years I've been using conceptual metaphor theory and most recently conceptual blending theory to help me to better understand the complex imagery to be found in these texts. My friend and colleague Dr. Stanishwar Timal Sinha has in fact written an entire superb book in which he uses these methodologies in his study of tantric traditions of northern India and Nepal. In a future version of this paper, I might use blending theory to reflect how the appropriation is working. In other words, which aspects of the ontology, epistemology, and soteriology of Shaktism are being connected to specific features of the Sahajiya systems. In other words, kind of like zoom in and look at the details and see where they connect. All right? There's so much interesting work to be done in many areas of tantric studies. I hope that many of us can get together here again in Sanchi, or perhaps in the USA for a Society for Tantric Studies meeting in Flagstaff, Arizona, or at the Tantric Studies Unit of the AAR in San Diego. And we can continue our fascinating research together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. I would like to invite Professor Arindam Chakravarti to deliver his paper.
Om Kalikayi Vidmahe Shmashanavasinyai Dhimahi Tanno Ghore Prachodayat. There is a crucial verse in Vijnana Bhairava which many of you know, which says the perception or awareness of objects and subjects, grahya and grahaka, is common to all embodied beings, not just humans. Even dogs and cows and cats are aware of themselves as the grasper and the fish or the object or the stone as the grasped object. Grahya grahaka samvitti samanya sarvadehina. Then what is special about being a yogi? And Vijnana Bhairava says, Yoginam tu visheshoryam sambandhe savadhanata. That a yogi is specially attentive to. And please be savadhana about the word savadhanata. Attention is perhaps the hottest topic in cognitive science right at this moment. In fact, in April, in NYU, New York University, there is going to be an international workshop on attention. Savadhanata, to attend to anything in a one-pointed way, what Yoga Sutra calls ekagra bhumi, is to be closer to enlightenment or samadhi of different kinds. What is their specialty? Sambandhe savadhanata. So, I want to talk for 5 minutes about relations. And then I will talk for about 10 minutes or 12 minutes on another R word. First, relations. Second, reasoning. And the third, finally, in the last 2 minutes, I have been kindly, gracefully, after much pleading and prayer, been allowed to speak for 20 minutes. And I'm hoping you might give me the slip, but I hope nobody will give me a slip. So relations in philosophy, Western and Eastern, are absolutely at the heart of metaphysical and epistemological issues. In Indian philosophy, a very quick history of relations goes like this. The relation between a word and the meaning has been discussed in a special long chapter of Bhartrihari's Vakyapadiyam called Sambandha Samudesha. Using that chapter, which is already a little mystical, because Bhartrihari ends by saying, you should never name a relation with a separate word. If you say that between the word jalam and water, the meaning, there is a relation, let us say, vachya vachaka sambandha, then it will give rise to an infinite regress. Then the question will arise, what is the relationship between vachya vachaka sambandha and the word vachya vachaka sambandha? Basically, if you say between A and B, relation is an R, then the question will be, what is the relation between R and A? If you call that C, then what is the relationship between C and R? That will be D. It goes back to Aristotle. It is called the third man paradox. So Bhartrihari says, you should just name the two entities and the relation should remain unnamed. And the word for unnamed in Sanskrit is anakhya or anupakya. Akhya is not possible. So keep that in mind for the second part of my talk. What is Anakhya? Now, Bhartrihari's doctrine about relation is taken very seriously by Dharmakirti, a Buddhist. And he says, this is an illusion, a fiction set up by conceptual thinking, which always gets us into fictions. There is nothing real called relations. That is, iti amishraha swayam bhavaha. Things, beings themselves are unmixed, they are unrelated. One at a time, here is an atomic swalakshana, here is another swalakshana, they are not connected. Even karya-karana sambandha is not there. But tan yojayati kalpana, our imagination makes it up. So the second text is sambandha pariksha, which is rejection. Word for word, sambandha pariksha is responded to and refuted by Utpaladeva, none other than the Shaivacharya Utpaladeva, in a book called Sambandha Siddhi. Philosophers are yogis in the best sense. Sambandhe savadhanata. They are very attentive to relations. Now comes the second part. How does a philosopher attend to relations? Not by meditation, but by reasoning, argumentation, tarka. And in my talk today, very, very briefly, I wanted to address the alleged conflict between 5 pairs of things. First pair, Veda versus Tantra, that is Nigama and Agama. That conflict is unreal. Reasoning versus meditation. Everybody has been telling me, Arindam, you are so lucky, you had a guru. Why don't you meditate? Forget about all these shushka tarka. What can I do? My philosophy led me to the worst teacher, Abhinavagupta, who says, Tarko yogangam uttamam. Tarka, sat tarka is the best yoga. He says, those who can practice sat tarka, not asat tarka, but sat tarka, good reasoning with yourself, who is the Purva Paksha. In a little known text, never translated, called Paryanta Panchashika, Abhinavagupta says, your Purva Paksha is Samvit Vimarsha Shakti. Your own position, Swapaksha, is Vimarsha Shakti. You are arguing, the Devi is arguing with the Devi inside you. If you can participate in that constant reasoning, then this way of getting perfect enlightenment is called, what is it called? By the name of this conference, it is called Shakta Upaya. So, then the conflict between Shaktopaya and Srividya, the path of syllables and the geometrical designs in your body. My old friend from Oxford, Madhu Khanna, is here. She was always loving and respectful, but she would sometimes tell me, Arindam, why are you spending so much time doing analytic philosophy and argumentation? Why don't you practice real Tantra? You have access to Shakta. Now I know this is Shakta. Shaktopaya is the Upaya. There are 3 names. Tarka, reasoning yoga. Tarka is yoga. Another name of the same thing, like morning star and evening star, is the name of the same planet, Venus. Shaktopaya and Krama Tantrism are the same. Krama. What is the relationship with the first part? Relation. Now I'm talking about reasoning. Krama means sequence. In any good reasoning, you have to have this rhythm. You first state the view. In fact, Abhinavagupta takes the ancient Prachina Nyaya Paddhati methodology very seriously. In the beginning of Tantra, he says, Uddesha Lakshanam Pariksha. You first list the topics, then you define each of them. Pramana, Prameya, Samshaya, Prayojana, Drishtanta, Siddhanta, Tarka, Chala, Jati, Nigraha, Sthana, etc., etc. This is Uddesha. Definition, Lakshana. Then Pariksha. And wonder of all wonders. He says, you know what Uddesha is? Uddesha is Vaikari Vak. Lakshana is Madhyama Vak. Pariksha is Pashyanti Vak. So you can see that Tarka is being projected onto the esoteric practice. So this division of labor, or this total division, these are Tarkikas, Nayayikas. And those are real meditators. Did not exist in Abhinavagupta. And this is not ahistorical my making. Abhinavagupta refers 3 times in Vivriti Vimarshini that he wrote an entire commentary on the Nyaya Sutras called Katha Mukha Tilaka. Yatha Mayaiva Uktam Nyaya Sutra Vivarane Katha Mukha Tilake. How does Krama argumentation go? It goes like this. It is not just logical, it is mathematical. All of you who did additional mathematics in high school, remember the sums of permutation and combination. You permute horizontally the 4 stages: Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, and Anakhya. I talked about Anakhya before. These 4 stages: Srishti stage, Sthiti stage, Laya stage. Okay? And then you combine them with vertical 3 possible roles of Sangvit. Prakasha Vimarsha, in our ordinary experience, is either an object. That object, that camera, is a prameya. I know that, I see that. I can be so absorbed. But according to the Shakta theory, that is Sangvit pretending to be physical. It is not really, physicality is real, but it is a form that Sangvit takes. So, Prameya itself can go through origination, Srishti. So, Prameya Srishti, Prameya Sthiti, and Prameya Sanghara, and then Prameya Anakhya. Similarly, Pramana, the means of knowledge, my perceiving, this process by which I see the object, my seeing, it's a visual pramana. You can call it the indriya also. Pramana is indriya. So, pramana srishti, pramana sthiti, pramana sanghara, and pramana anakhya. And finally, the most subjective, the knower. Pramatri srishti, pramatri sthiti, pramatri sanghara, and pramatri anakhya. And pramatri anakhya is the 12th stage. The sequence of these, and ultimately merging all of them into the pramatri anakhya, who has a beautiful name, Maha Bhairava Chandogra Kali, that leads you to outside these 12 possible combinations. And that is the 13th, that is para. This sequential reasoning is called Krama Sadhana or Shaktopaya. And very quickly, when Prameya is combined with creation, that Kali is called Srishti Kali. If anybody is taking notes, if you want to look up fourth part of Tantra Loka. Tantra Loka has 36 parts, like the Natya Shastra. 36 parts, 36 tattvas. Fourth part, Chaturtha Annika of Tantra Loka. And if you don't have time for Tantra Loka, short Tantra Sara, also fourth chapter. In Tantra Loka, verse 149 to 179. In these verses, you will find all the 12 Kalis described. But these Kalis are methods of reasoning. This you can call it Shakta epistemology. So you think in your mind, okay, what happens when this object arises in front of me? I first look at it and sanctify it as Srishti Kali. Then what happens when it is stable? I think even if I don't look at it, it will be there. This idea, which a great Western philosopher called permanent possibility of perception, the stability, sthiti of Prameya, that is called Rakta Kali, because there is an attachment. There is a Rakta Kali. Then dissolution of the object. This is called Sthiti Nasha Kali. And then Anakhya of object, not of these three stages, but unnameable relation, that is called Yamakali. Similarly, the means, Pramana, when Pramana is arising, that is called Samhara Kali. When Pramana is stable, that's called Mrityu Kali. When Pramana is dissolving, that's called Bhadra or Rudra Kali. And then when Pramana is Anakhya, it is called Martanda Kali. Then, when Pramata, the knower, is arising, that's called Kalagni Rudra Kali. No, Paramarka Kali. Pramata Sthiti is called Kalagni Rudra Kali. Pramata Sanghara is called Mahakala Kali. And Pramata, nameless, unspeakable, Anakhya, ineffable Pramata, knower, is Mahabhairava Ugra Chanda Kali. Right? Now, I have 3 more minutes. I said, like the 3 R's of education, reading, writing, arithmetic, my 3 R's are relation, reasoning, and then repose, Vishranti. Vishranti is not what you guys are doing after lunch. You know, dozing off, taking rest, sleeping while somebody is going away talking. That is not just Vishranti. Vishranti is the ultimate goddess. Shuddha Samvit is called Vishranti Devi. I won't have time to talk about it. In Bettina Baumer's Festschrift, what is the Festschrift called, Madhu? Do you remember? There's a name of this book, Bettina Baumer's Festschrift. So there Alexis and I have written about the philosophy part. And my paper there is called Repose of the Heart and the Heart of Repose. This Vishranti is where these conflicts are genuine. Between meditation and reasoning, there is a conflict. Just as there is an ultimate conflict between aham, subject, and idam, object. But all of us know how the conflict between me and that object, me conscious, that object jada, how this conflict is finally solved. Just a grammatical question. Okay? Twang Shri Swamishwari Twang Hirir Buddhir Lakshana. Tvam is the middle. Sambandhe Savadhanata. Attention to the middle, not the first person. The first person is the hero of the Bhagavad Gita. Uttama Purushastvanya Paramatmetyudahrita. Not just Purushottama. Abhinav Gupta's commentary says the I, Uttama Purusha, is 15th chapter. That's Idam. This world is the hero of modern science. In between modern science, which is Idam obsessed, and Bhagavad Gita and Advaita Vedanta, which is Aham obsessed, there is Para goddess in Paratringshika that is called Tvam. And this Tvam, you, as the previous speaker before lunch was saying, when addressed, everything becomes alive. A baby girl takes her doll, dresses the doll up. My colleague, famous colleague in Hawaii, Lee Siegel, tried to provoke me by saying, hey, you Hindus worship this Gopal, Krishna, these are idols. I said, that is an Ishtapatti. These are dolls of the eye. Yes, my subjectivity I project. And as a result, comes up my little Laddu Gopal, my Kali. And like Ramakrishna, I talk to Kali. And I say, you better free me from this world. By my youing, just by my twankar. Later on, I may apologize to Kali. I didn't know. Bihara Shasyasana Bhojaneshu, I have called you, hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey Sakheti, Prasabham Yaduktam. You please forgive me. But it is by my second person that these are solved. My reasoning turns into meditation. The subject and object merge into the second person. And the ritual of puja, of doing anganyasa, mahashodanyasa, angnama, ingnama, ungnama, ungnama, klingnama, krangnama, krungnama, angushtabhyam, baushat, anamikabhyam, all of these mantras, they are not to be dismissed. But this mantradva and this philosophical way, they come together in this yoga of reasoning. Then comes repose. Last 1 minute, a beautiful verse, not in the Ishvara Pratyavijna Vimarshini, not in Tantra Loka, but in Lochana commentary of Dvanya Loka. Abhinav Gupta gives an example, but the example is an example of ultimate addressing of the objects. Okay, I will read the Sanskrit later, but here is the English, my translation. Oh, you array of material objects. Where is Lorelei? Array of material objects. You play this great sport, concealing your own heart of pure consciousness, affecting and entering the hearts of people all of a sudden in a variety of different manners, making everything dance in, I would say, what Aristotle called dunamis, potentiality, shakti, constant vibration, spanda. He who calls you inert, play on the word jada, which means stupid and inert, both. Mindless, you're like a stone, right? If you are a contemporary modern youth in New York, You think your ultimate end of life is to become stoned. Right? Getting stoned. And this is so inert. So he's telling all these people, not people, objects, physical objects. You are plural, you are many. I know what you are pretending to be many. He who calls you inert, jada, himself is an inert, mindless fool. The ultimate of stupidity is to call these material objects. They are ill-educated, badly, dushikshito, badly educated, yet deeming themselves sensible connoisseur with a heart, saridayam manya. Not saridaya, but saridayam manya. Yet, now you will see, he is now saying something angry, like Arindam said about organizers of the conference. But now he is not like me. He is saying, by the way, there is something great about this stupidity. Yet, this stupidity, this jadata, this jadya, inertness of such stupid persons, I guess, deserves to be eulogized, to be praised, insofar as it bears a possible resemblance to you all. Array of beings who self-concealingly appear as inert physical objects. After all, stones and inert things are Shiva. And insofar as they are being like stones, they should be eulogized. Very slowly. And my last words, the mantra from Lochana. Bhava vrata, vrata plural, many, bhava gana. Hathat janasya hridayani akramya yat nartayan bhangivir vividhavir atma hridayam prachadya. You have hidden yourself. This thing, you should, a tantric practitioner who is practicing Shaktopaya should go to a stone, should go to somebody in a coma and say, I know who you are. You are pretending to be solid and material, but you are glistening with Sangvit. You are actually Sangvit. I have caught your trick. You are pretending to be an object, but you are subject through and through. Bhava vrata hatat janasya hridayani akramya jar nartayan bhangi vir bibidavir atma hridayam prachadya sankridase. You are doing play, sport. Yastam aha jadam. One who calls you jada, one who calls you material, idam, that is that. Jada, he is himself jada. Saridayam manya, manyatva dushikshito. Manne amushya jadatmata stutipadam. His jadatmakatva is worthy of hymns, worthy of eulogy. Why? Tvat samya sambhavanat. Because that makes them similar to you. That is, in other words, pretending to be stupid, but actually Shiva and pure intelligence himself. Namaskaromi.
Thank you, Arindam. I would now like to invite Professor David Lawrence to address us.
Thank you. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to all of you. I should first say that my pronunciation is unfortunately not very clear of anything, and so I'll try to speak slowly and clearly, and please let me know if you have any questions about what I said. As far as introduction goes, like Glenn mentioned, what to say? I became a little bit interested in some Hindu philosophy in high school. And in college, I majored in religion and specialized in Hinduism at George Washington University with Alf Hiltermeidel. And I got my PhD at the University of Chicago, and my dissertation committee was B.K. Motilal, Wendy Doniger, and the Catholic philosopher and theologian David Tracy. And in India, I did my research over the years, primarily when he was alive, with Hemendranath Chakrabarti and also with Navjivan Rastogi, and a little bit with Sri Narayan Mishra and some other people, but mostly with Hemendranath Chakrabarti. When Professor Motilal passed away, Paul Griffiths was placed on my committee. And it was almost done then. He approved of certain things. Anyway, now I'll talk about non-dual Kashmiri Shaiva themes in Jayaratha's Vivarana on the Vamakeshwari Mata. The Vamakeshwari Mata is one of the central texts of Srividya. In this paper, I want to examine the influence of the Sanskrit, what can be called hermeneutics, developed by the non-dual Kashmiri Shaiva philosopher of the 10th to 11th centuries, Abhinavagupta, on the interpretation of the goddess text by Jayaratha of the 12th and 13th centuries. And just to say a little bit more before proceeding, non-dual Kashmiri Shaivism has a tremendous amount of Shakti in it. Alexis Anderson, in his presentation at the World Sanskrit Conference in July, talked about a kind of infusion of Shaivism with Shaktism that historically occurred. So that occurred, and normally Shakti is conceived in a rather standard manner as the integral component of Shiva's ultimate, or Paramashiva's, nature, which is non-dual and we might say hermaphroditic, including Shiva and Shakti. And they understand it in the usual way. But, the two are inseparable. It's not like one is powerful without the other. They're inseparable. Anyway, there's a lot of Shakti in there, and Vijnana Bhairava says Shakti is Shiva's mukha, his mouth or door. And just to point this out, Somadeva Vasudeva talks about non-dual Shaivism as Shakta Shaivism. I would rather call it Shaiva or Shaktism with a Shaiva veneer. I know that Staneshwar Timasina has worked on Shakti and non-dual Shaivism, and I don't know, he may talk about that more later. Anyway, and Jayaratha is known for his commentary on Abhinavagupta's master work, the Tantraloka, and some other texts, including this commentary. Alexis Anderson has already argued that the Srividya cult of Kashmir, of Sripur Sundari, was an early Kashmiri evolute of non-dual Shaivism. I first learned of the Vamakeshwari Mata and its use of non-dual Kashmiri Shaiva themes and Pratyabhijna themes in the 1980s, and now I'm returning a little bit to it. Jayaratha provided a kind of model for the appropriation of non-dual Shaivism in Srividya, which was elaborated in the 17th and 18th centuries by Bhaskara Rai and others, especially Bhaskara Rai. He actually has a lot more detail than Jayaratha. Anyway, after examining this text more carefully, I started to form a different impression of both Jayaratha and Bhaskara Rai's books on Srividya, which I discussed in the case of Bhaskara Rai at the AAR conference in November, and now I'll talk about Jayaratha. Both of them, in fact, mention, their texts have lots of philosophical, significance, but they're not elaborate philosophical arguments. Both of them, Jayaratha and Bhaskara Rai, mention non-dual Kashmiri Shaivism and Pratyabhijna only occasionally. This text, it's still significant, but it's only occasional. Anyway, many scholars, such as beginning, I think maybe with M.N. Srinivas in South India, Milton Singer, the anthropologist, and Sheldon Pollock, the Sanskritist, and in tantric studies, Alexis Anderson, David White, and others have looked at the employment of Sanskrit Shastriya categories, and particularly pramana and allied theories, as forms of legitimation, merely justifying a power grab. Of course, political power is part of the meaning of Shakti. In some Hindu and Buddhist texts, it's very central, and different siddhis are part of the meaning, although they're downplayed in more soteriological focused Shakti. And there is some kind of domesticization, what Sanderson and David White and others have called domesticization, or Wendy Doniger and others have called sanitization of the transgressive aspects of Shaktatantra, leading to things like Samaya and, Dakshinamagga and so on. There is some domesticization. But I think it is wrong to project, even though there is an obsession with personal power over others to gain your selfish ends and political power in Hindu and Buddhist Tantra, I think it's wrong to project our own obsessions with personal power, narcissism, and the rhetoric of self-advancement, selling yourself, as the primary motivation why Tantra started using philosophical categories. I don't see it as sanitization. There was, in some respects, sometimes some sanitization, but I don't see the use of philosophy as sanitization. In my writings, I have often returned to a discourse analysis of my teacher, David Tracy. I do not intend this usage as a form of inclusivistic proselytization for Christianity, and which I'm not a member of, I'm not a Christian, or other crypto-colonialism. Tracy analyzes different kinds of discourse, and that's what I think is useful. He describes the audiences, methods, and other features specifying the relations between the philosophical, or what he calls fundamental theology, symbolic exegesis, which Tracy calls systematic theology, there's different uses of those terms, and ritualism and ethics, which he calls practical theology. I believe that Tracy's analysis is useful to helping interpret the relationship between different kinds of Shastric discourse, philosophy, systematic exegesis of symbols, and ritual and ethics. I believe that many Sanskrit writers would agree with Tracy that philosophy or philosophical theology grounds and critically structures symbolic exegesis as well as ritualism and ethics. I think that's what Abhinavagupta is mostly doing in the Tantra Loka. There is some philosophy, but mostly exegesis of symbols and rituals. And there's some ethics too. I think that for reasons of philosophical cogency and ontological probity, at least this is my thought, I can't absolutely prove it, but I can't prove that there's just a personal obsession with self-advancement either. I think that for reasons of philosophical cogency and ontological probity, rather than purely reductive domesticization, that Jayaratha and also Bhaskara Rai and others occasionally refer to non-dual Shaivism and the philosophy and philosophical grounded exegetics of Pratyabhijna and Abhinavagupta. Of course, Tracy is merely a Western philosopher. However, he is no more distant from South Asia than are Friedrich Nietzsche, Karl Marx, and Michel Foucault. They are not really part of Indian culture either. And we can't assume that Indian culture is just following the thought of Michel Foucault. An Indian scholar of Tantra, Navjeevan Rastogi, has agreed with me that Bhaskara Rai and Jayarata use Pratyabhya concepts basically for greater clarity, philosophical clarity, rather than political self-advancement. He agrees with that. To summarize the mentions of Pratyabhya and non-dual Shaivism by Jayarata, there is, first of all, this is just like a dictionary. I mean, I'm skimming the text and seeing all these things. I mean, I know what to look for, but it takes concentration. There is mention of various actual texts, such as the Svachanda Tantra and Malini Vijaya Tantra, as Anya Golevkova observes in her abstract. There is mention of those texts. There is also and maybe she'll talk about it more. There is also frequent mention of Utpaladeva and Abhinavagupta's Pratyabhya Shastras and Abhinavagupta's Tantra Loka. Jayarata, in this, like Bhaskara Rai later, does not seem to differ overall, even though he's presenting Shakti. In my perspective, he does not differ overall from non-dual Shaivism's standard view on the ultimate identity and relative statuses of Shiva versus Devi, Shaktiman and Shakti. One tradition ascribes preeminence to one and one to the other. What does Jayarata really think? I'm not going to try to answer that. Among paradigmatic non-dual Shaiva and Pratyabhya concepts, there are such general terms as vimarsha or paramarsha, which I translate now not as judgment, but as recognitive apprehension, for in a manner kind of dialectically bridging a soteriological realization. Vimarsha is almost the same as Pratyabhya in some discussions, with quotidian epistemological experience. So vimarsha is bridging. It's trying to show how ordinary epistemological experience depends on the soteriological realization. There is the pair of vimarsha and prakasha, illuminative awareness. There is aham, I, as a mantra, and ahanta, parahanta, or purna ahanta, or other references to some sort of higher state of I-ness, the condition of I. There is a kind of, even though it's not, its term is not used, there's a kind of disclosure of Shakti. I mean, this is what is in Krama and Shaktopaya, as Arindam Chakravarti just discussed. There is the disclosure of Shakti, or as it is called in the Pratyabhya Shakti Avishkarana, and the somewhat synonymous identification, also related to what was just discussed, of aham and idam, this, sometimes called Shuddha Vidya, pure wisdom. And there's a broadly gnosiological, intellectual kind of approach to liberation. There are some other concepts are anuttara, the unsurpassed, anakya, the unexpressible, vak, speech, like you have in Pratyabhya from Bhartrihari and the Vedas and so on, paravak, and various goddesses, powers of speech and mantras, accompanied by descriptions of their stages and transformations. There are samvid, consciousness or experience. There are krama, sequential meditation, spanda or spurata, divine pulsation, along with their cognates. There are kala karshini and a number of different karshinis connected with absorbing or attracting different aspects of the cosmos. Maybe you can call it cosmic absorbers or attractors or something like that. There are a kind of parinamavada, the appropriated Sankhya doctrine of transformation, which is used throughout Tantra. There is a continuity between Purusha and Prakriti, whether that's through Shakti or otherwise. And in later, after Jayarata, this is explained in Advaita interpretations, of course, as a kind of vivarta, a kind of construction or projection after Parinama. So there's both, Parinama and vivarta in later texts, but not in Jayarata. There are also aesthetic or quasi-aesthetic concepts such as rasa, aesthetic sentiments or tastes. Jivan Rastogi has argued persuasively that rasa in Utpaladeva already has an aesthetic purport in Rasa Udita, which was elaborated in all of the aesthetic writings of Abhinavagupta. And I think he's probably right. I think there's already some increasing valuation of aesthetics maybe in the Agamas and in Utpaladeva too, before Abhinavagupta. As Douglas Brooks has observed, with regard to Bhaskara Rai, there is a great proliferation of triads, as from Trika, throughout Jayarata's writings. These include the very name Tripura, the triangles and other components of the Sri Chakra, as well as their connections. There are 3 Shaktis or aspects of Shakti. Sometimes it's Icha, intention or will, Jnana, cognition, and Kriya, action. There are analyses in terms of Para, Parapara, and Apara, the supreme, intermediate, and non-supreme. And there are triads and other groups of mantric bijas or other phonemes and their associations. There are similarly forms of the Absolute, as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. They all come from Shakti, maybe they're her body, I don't know. There are 3 worlds, cosmic realms, abodes, or seats. There are the 3 chief upayas developed by Abhinavagupta out of the Mahani Vijaya. There are, of course, even more, as I said before, there are even more triads throughout Hinduism, as well as in ancient Neoplatonism and probably elsewhere. Christianity has long viewed various Hindu and other triads as some kinds of figurations of the Trinity. Frank Looney has described the history of both Hindu and Christian interpretations and often misunderstandings of the Trinity and triads. One of my own philosophical inspirations, Charles Peirce, argued for the ubiquity of the semiotic triad of sign, object, and interpreting. I just have to find out where it was. An approach that has been called by one author triadomania. Peirce even included the Trinity as a semiotic triad. Whether Peirce's semiotic triads are at all comparable to Shakta and other Hindu expressions is beyond my present ability to summarize. There are also, besides all this, there are a few pentads, which you have in non-Guru Shaivism and other Tantra, but especially non-Guru Shaivism, and you have in Srividya. In my opinion, Jayarata, like the even more erudite Bhaskara Rai, in passing all these great traditions, Shaiva and Pratibhanga categories, using them to give his work, is using all these to give his work more genuine academic plausibility or cogency, rather than just to domesticize it. That's my opinion. And I think that's how it's usually understood. Anyway, thanks a lot, that's all.
I would now like to request Professor Simpetor Ranganath to deliver his address. Thank you.
जातवेदसे सुनवामसो ममराति यतो निदहति वेदः स नः पर्षदति दुर्गाणि विश्वानावेव सिन्धुं दुरितात्यग्निः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः. At the very outset, I am highly grateful to Dr. Shastriji, Professor Shantkumari, scholars on the dais and off the dais. The title of my paper is Guru Tradition in Tantra with special reference to Srividya Tantra. I am going to follow Gachad Vyakhyana method of Mimamsa Shastra, hop, skip and jump. And I am not going to read the entire paper, which is of 26 pages, due to paucity of time. One may begin this paper with the statement of Max Muller. We have a past to look back upon and a future to look forward to. And it may be that some of the riddles of the future may find their solution in the wisdom of the past. A Mahayuga is composed of 4 ages: Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. For each of the ages, a suitable Shastra is given. For Satya or Krita, the Vedas; for the Treta, the Smriti Shastra; for the Dwapara, the Purana; and for Kali, Agama or Tantra Shastra. Kularnava Tantra states, Krute Shrutyukta Acharaha, Tretayam Smriti Sambhavaha, Dwaparetu Puranoktaha, Kalau Agama Sammataha. Tara Pradipta says that in Kali Yuga, the Tantric and not the Vedic Dharma in the sense of mode of life and ritual is to be followed. Dr. Sylvain Levy, in his introductory speech at Collège de France, states, as one increasingly explores the Tantric literature, hitherto almost unknown, discovery is made not of more and more dissimilarities, but of a closer and closer connection between these scriptures and other religions. I need not elaborate this because Professor Arindam's paper has thrown sufficient light on this particular point from interdisciplinary studies. Professor Ivola states, the Tantric system offers many suggestions to the West in virtue of its accentuation of will and power. Professor Winternitz remarks, the Tantra Shastra deserves a study which they have previously not received, and that they have been judged without knowledge. And this particular point has been justified by the Honorable Vice Chancellor in the inaugural session. The word Srividya is subject to twofold interpretation. It may mean the ocean, either of Srividya or Srividyas. By Vidya is meant a mnemonic formula peculiar to a goddess. The work under consideration deals with the mnemonic formulas of Mahatripura Sundari in particular and with those of other goddesses in general. The reader in this connection note that there is a difference in meaning between the two words mantra and vidya. Mananat mantraha sa vidya ya vimuktaye. Though referring equally to mnemonic formula. The first means the set of mnemonic formula which is peculiar to gods, and the second, that which is peculiar to goddesses. Sri Vidyarnava is an authoritative text for the Madhumati school. The work Sri Vidyarnava elucidates every point in connection with the elaborate worship of Mahatripura Sundari. It is divided into 2 parts called Purvardha and Uttarardha, both containing 18 chapters. The word 18 has got a great symbolic representation in Indian tradition. We have 18 Puranas, 18 Upapuranas, 18 Parvas of Mahabharata, and the particular book on Mahabharata by Professor Arvind Sharma really fascinated me. 18 Adhyayas of Gita, 18 Akshohini Sainya, and the 18-day war. Each chapter bears the name of Shvasa, a breath. This division, the reader will see, is not based on any logical ground, because in that case, there should have been obviously a change in the subject matter of the chapter, ending and in the beginning. Sri Vidyaranya occupies a pride of place among the post-Shankara Advaitins, Dr. Veni Madhav Shastri Joshi, I think he is not here. His doctoral thesis is on Srividya, being published from Parimal Publications, 7/11, Shakti Nagar, Delhi, 110007. An inscription of Harihara II describes Vidyaranya as the supreme light incarnate, is hailed as Karnataka Simhasana Sthapanacharya, was the 12th pontiff of Sringeri Mutt. He, with his encyclopedic knowledge and mastery over various branches of learning, wrote such seminal works like Panchadashi, Jivan Mukti Viveka, Sarvadarshana Sangraha, Anubhuti Prakasha, Vivarana Prameya Sangraha, Kala Madhurya, Sri Vidyarnava, and so on. I skipped some of the pages. The point comes directly to the concept of Guru. Sri Vidyarnava occupies a pride of place. An inscription of Harihara describes him as the greatest scholar. In this context, one can refer to the following statement in Vidyarnava Tantra. The upward march from plane to plane in the spiritual realm, when one gets the grace of Guru, and I will not be mistaken if I quote Abhinav Gupta, Urdhvardhvamarukya yadartha tattvam dhipashyati shrantim avedayanti phalantadadyai parikalpitanam viveka sopana paramparana. You see, viveka should go in the form of sopana. You just can't climb all of a sudden to the last step. So, Uttarardha, or the second part, describes the worship of other gods and goddesses of Hindu pantheon, and the concluding portion embodying the instruction of Sri Vidyaranya received from the preceptor regarding the worship of Mahatripura Sundari. Diksha, or intuition or initiation, is imparting Bijakshara mantra, mystic syllable, to the disciple by the preceptor, and is an important feature of Tantra. And just yesterday, I had the good fortune of being in the Bijakshara place of Kalidasa in Ujjain, being accompanied by Professor Shantkumari, who is here. The day preceding the initiation to the disciple is seated in a mat of Kusha grass. That's why we have Kushagra Mati and the Kushagra Buddhi. So those two things, they are really very, very necessary for being a good student. I don't have time to go for the characteristics of student because I leave out that. I'm concentrating only on Guru here. And the relation without Shishya to Guru will be incomplete. I know that fully well. But still, due to paucity of time, Guru Shishyo Ubhau Nauchet Apariksha Parasparam Upadesham Dadat Grinhan Prapnuyatam Pishachatam. We have this particular statement of Kularnava Tantra. The individual thus initiated by the Guru is also called Dikshita. And we also have some surname as Nilakanta Dikshita, Vedanta Dikshita, like that. So Dikshita is the one who can really give Diksha to a Shishya. Even the Parashakti herself is praised as Dikshita in Lalita Sahasranama. Dikshita Daitya Shamani. Di signifies supreme knowledge. Kshita connotes its achievement, and Dikshita is one who has attained the supreme knowledge. Tamba yetam dikshitam santam dikshita itya chakshate, states Aitareya Brahmana of Rigveda. Hence, the birth of the disciple through Diksha is the third one, whilst the second one is through Gayatri Upadesha. Gayantam Trayate iti Gayatri. So, Gayatri Chandasa Maham, Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita. So, Gayatri is the greatest one to be imparted. Dikshita is that by which divine knowledge is gained with dissolution of all sins, says Rudra Yamana Tantra. Divya Gnanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Papakshayat Tataha Tasmat Diksheti Saprokta Sarvatantrasya Sammataha. It is that by which infinite knowledge is gained, tethers binding to samsara are destroyed, in keeping with what Mundakopanishad says, Pijyate Hrudaya Granti, Chidyante Sarvasamshaya, Kshiyante Chasya Karmani, Tasmin Drishte Paravare. So that Paravara Drishti, that is what is being implanted here. And tethers binding to samsara are destroyed. All sins accumulated by the mind and speech and body are dispersed. That's why the word Diksha is Diyate Gnanamatyantam Kshiyate cha Papa Sanchayaha. So all the papas will wash out. I am skipping 3 pages. Reference to Srividya Tantra. Tantra gives a long qualification for a guru. Who exactly should be a guru? And we also have a guru tradition or a guru sampradaya. Sampradaya Vishwasabhyam Sarvasiddhihi, says Parashurama Kalpasutra, being brought out from Gaikwad Oriental Series, Baroda. And the most important thing is that sampradaya, asampradaya with sarva shastra vidapi murkhavadeva upekshaniyaha, states Shankara Bhashya, Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, 2nd verse, 2nd line, being written in his 16th year in Prasanna Gambhira style. So there one can look into that. Guru kramascha gnatavyaha, mantra siddhi abhipsuvihi, ishanakyaha tatpurushaha, aghorascha tatapparam, chaturto vamadevascha, sadyojatascha panchamaha, yete panchaiva divyogaha, adinataha tatapparam. I don't have time to go into yoga, divyoga and all that. So those are all the technical terms. Anantanandanatascha, chidabhasastataivacha, yete panchaiva siddhogaha, panchamastu pareshvaraha. It goes on like that, the entire description. And after describing the Guru Parampara, he directly comes to the characteristics of a Guru. Shri Guru Parameshani Shuddhavesho Manoharaha Sarvalakshana Sanyuktaha Sarvavayava Shobhitaha Sarva Agamartha Tatvagnaha. The word Agama, Agatam Shivavaktrebhyah Gatancha Girijamukhe Matitam Vasudevena Tasmat Agama Uchyate. That's how the word Agama has been related. So even for Agama, it is Shiva and Parvati who are the parents. Loka Sammohanakaraha Devavat Priyadarshanaha Sumukaha Sulabaha Svachaha Shuddhantaha Chinna Samshayaha Ingitakara Cheshtavit Duratakrita Durjanaha Antarmukaha Bahirdrishtihi Sarvagnaha Deshakalavit Agna Siddhaha Trikalagnaha Nigraha Anugraha Kshamaha Veda Vedangavit Shantaha. You see, he goes on like this. What are the characteristics which are required? Veda Vedanga Tatvagnaha. So Vedas are that which directly emerge from the mouth of the Lord. Yasya nishvasitam yetad yad Rigvedo, Yajurvedo, Samavedo, Atharvavedaha. The very first mantra of Rigveda, it starts with Agni, invoking Agni. Agnamile Purohitam Yajnasya Devam Rutvijam Hotaram Ratnadhatanam Agni Purve Virushubiri Jyodutanairuta Sadevam Jehavakshati Agnina Rayamashnavatposhameva Dive Dive Yashasam Bhiravattamam Agniyam Vignamadvaram Vishvata Paribhurasi Sayid Deveshu Gachati Agnirhota Kavikratus Satyas Chitra Shravastamaha Devo Deve Viragamat Yadangadashushe Tomagne Bhadran Karishyasi Tavetat Satyamangiraha Upatvagne Dive Dive Dosha Vastardhiya Vayam Namo Bharantayemasi Rajantamadvaranam Gopamratasyadi Divim Vardhamanam Svedame Sanapite Vasuna Vegne Supayano Bhava Satasvana Svastaye. Just the first mantra I have quoted. Like that, it takes only 64 hours for me to chant an entire Rigveda. Well, I don't test your patience here. So, I have, to the speakers, I have given a complimentary copy of my Rigvedic chanting. Anyway, a guru should have a pleasant attire with which he should be attractive, should be endowed with all the good qualities, and all his senses should be bewitchingly beautiful, should have mastery over the agamas, should know to officiate all the mantras. This is very important. Some may know mantra, but they don't know how to officiate it to others. That's the most important, because that exactly leads us to the concept of acharya in our tradition. Achinoti shastrarthan acharya stapayatyapi swayam acharate yastu satu acharya iti shrutaha. Some people know the text all right, but they don't have the art of communication. Some have excellent art of communication, but they don't know the subject itself. Both of them will not suffice. And one who should put it to practice, to quote Radhakrishnan, History of Indian Philosophy, Volume 2, page 442, paragraph 3, line 2, George Allen Unwin Publishers, 1924, India has no dearth of philosophers, but hardly we find practitioners. Who is going to practice? Everybody is a preacher. Therefore, unfortunately, we don't have practitioners. We want practical philosophers and not mere speaking about the theory of aspect of it. So, such a guru should have mercy towards others, especially towards Shishya. You know, Shishya Karunya. That's why the word Deshika has come into being. To quote the third verse of Nyasa Vimshati from Vedanta Deshika's Stotra, Siddham Sat Sampradaye Stiradayam Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam Satvastam Satyavacham Samayanetaya Sadhuvritya Sametam Damba Asuyadi Muktam Jita Vishayaganam Dirgabandum Dayalam Skalitye Shasitaram Swajana Rahitaparam Deshikam Bhushnuripset. That is Deshika. So, Devata Rupadharitva, Shishyanugraha Karanat, Karunyamrita Purtitvat, Deshika Katita Priye. Kularnava Tantra says, God himself descends down. Why? To uplift human beings to that spiritual height. To quote J. Krishnamurti, if man tries to ascend one step towards God, God descends down 7 steps. One should be an ace to race to get the grace of that God. That's the most important thing. If I had served God with half the zeal as I served my king, he would not have let me down in my crisis. This is what Milton says in Areopagitica. Therefore, the most important thing is that grace. And that is called mercy. Parampara, acclaimed in Tantric tradition, is unique by nature. The qualifications of a guru, the scope and kinds of diksha he administers to Shishya are unique. And the paper has tried to give a synoptic view of the role of Guru in the background of major Tantric works, with special emphasis on Srividya Tantra, a seminal Tantric work handed down to us from the sage Vidyaranya, the establisher of Vijayanagar kingdom, most important Advaita scholar and a pontiff of Sri Sringeri Sharada Peetham. I submit this paper in the words of Hemachandra Suri. Pramana Siddhanta Viruddhamatra, Yetkinchiduktam Matimandya Doshat, Matsarya Mutsarya Tadarya Chittaha Prasadamadaya Vishodhayantu. Thank you very much.